Hey guys, all right, so this week we are going to focus on the Holocaust, and I know that you already had a long unit on the Holocaust with ELA. So, what we're going to do today is we're just going to do a brief overview of the Holocaust to remind you of what you previously learned. So, what was the Holocaust? It was the systematic, bureaucratic, state sponsored persecution and murder of approximately 6 million Jews by the Nazi regime and its collaborators. Along with these 6 million Jews, there were about 5 million other minorities that were also killed. Now, the key here is state sponsored, so that means the government supported this. The Nazi government supported this. Now, when Hitler came to power, he believed that Aryans or Aryans were the perfect race. So these are people who were blonde hair, blue eyes, and full German blood. Now, he didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes, but if you had blonde hair and blue eyes, you were considered to be like the perfect example of what Hitler wanted all Germans to look like. So, how did Hitler start this? Because it wasn't like Hitler just woke up one morning and said, all right, let's start killing Jews, and everyone was like, go for it. So when Hitler first came to power in the early 1930s, he started using hate speech and propaganda to turn people against Jews, to blame them for things like the Great Depression and losing World War I. And eventually he started to pass laws like the Nuremberg laws, which put restrictions on Jews. So it would force them to carry ID cards saying they are Jewish. They would have to wear the Star of David somewhere on their clothing. They would be fired from certain jobs. They would be banned from universities and schools. So over a period of a few years, Hitler started to slowly take away rights from the Jewish people. It wasn't just one day, bam, they lose all their rights. This was over a period of a few years. So they kind of eased them into it. And when it first started happening, Jews were like, it's okay. He'll be out of power soon. We just have to carry an ID card. And then when the next order came, it's okay. He'll be out of power soon. Nothing crazy is going to come of this. And then it escalated and escalated and escalated to the point where they are put in camps. So how did Hitler carry out his plan of killing Jews? First was he created ghettos and labor camps. Now, a ghetto isn't really what we think of today when we think of the ghetto. A ghetto back then was somewhere where a large number of Jewish people were held in this very small area. And ghettos had been around since the Middle Ages. But Hitler required all Jews to register, to give up their homes, and to come live in these ghettos. And these ghettos were usually very, very small. They were extremely overcrowded. You might have multiple families in one 2-bedroom apartment. You had to leave behind most of your stuff. And these ghettos were also just really bad places to live. A lot of people starved while they were in there. Some froze to death. And the ghettos are surrounded by these walls. And an intimidation tactic that the Nazis used was they would dig up Jewish headstones that they had put in their cemeteries, and they would build these walls with the headstones. So to remind the Jews that their ancestors, their loved ones, their family were dead, and they're the ones that are making up this wall right here. So you had ghettos and labor camps. Now, the ghettos was to consolidate the Jews, to bring them all into one area. The labor camps are where they were sent to work. Hitler did not start off with death camps like Auschwitz. He started off with labor camps. So here we have 2 young boys asking for food. We've got people lined up against the ghetto wall. They're most likely going to be shot. And this right here is one of the labor camps. So they would send the Jews from the ghettos to the labor camps. These were their barracks. These are actually a little nicer barracks. They've got big windows. But they're jam-packed in here. The next part of Hitler's plan involved the Einsatzgruppen. And these are organized killing units. The Einsatzgruppen, their job was to go to parts of Eastern Europe like Poland, and they would go into towns. They would round up all the Jews. They would force them to dig holes in the ground, and then they would shoot them all while they're standing next to the hole, so they just fall in. So they're forcing them to dig their own graves. And this is before the death camp. So at this point, Hitler decides, we need to get rid of the Jews. So that is the Einsatzgruppen's job. They were given lots of alcohol because it was said to have been like mentally draining to kill all these people. You're killing like entire Jewish communities in one village. And after the war, a lot of the Einsatzgruppen members were like, well, we were forced to do this, like you couldn't say no. But no one was ever killed for refusing to kill a Jew. There is not one instance of any of these Einsatzgruppen members who said no to killing Jews being killed themselves. They might have been moved to a different unit, but they were never killed. They were never imprisoned. But after the war, that was their argument. If we didn't do this, we would have been killed ourselves. Never happened. They might have thought that, but it never happened. So the Einsatzgruppen, they would literally make them dig their own graves. They would line them up outside their graves, and then they would shoot them in the back of the head. However, this wastes a lot of bullets, and the Einsatzgruppen, they start becoming alcoholics because they're drinking so much because it's just so mentally draining, and this is what leads Hitler to come up with the idea of death camps. So, death camps and the final solution. The final solution is the plan to exterminate all the Jews in Europe. Now, the first death camp opened up in 1941 near the Lodz ghetto, and it was called Chelmno. And it incorporated the T4 program. The T4 program was something that the Nazis had been using for years, and it was when they used gas to kill the handicapped people. Because obviously the handicapped people were not important, and they were just a waste of space. So they would use gas to kill the handicapped people who were living in like group homes, and then they would send letters home to their parents or their loved ones saying, "Oh, we're sorry, your relative died." They wouldn't tell them how. Now, a death camp or an extermination camp is a camp with the specific purpose of killing millions of people. So most concentration camps were not death camps. They were work camps. A lot of people died, but the specific purpose was not to kill people. So there were 6 death camps that the Nazis created. The first one was Chelmno. Then you had Auschwitz-Birkenau, Treblinka, Belzec, Sobibor, and Majdanek. Now, Auschwitz-Birkenau is probably the one you've all heard of because this is where Anne Frank was. This was also the largest. Most of these death camps were very small. So Treblinka, I'm going to show you a picture. Well, here we go. Okay, so this is the layout of Treblinka. Over here would have been the railroad tracks where the people entered. This is the building where they would go and get gassed. And then this is where they would dump the bodies. Because Treblinka did not have a crematorium at first. Now this, see, it has a little red cross. This is supposed to be the medical center. To reassure people, like children and older people, they would say, you're going to go to this medical center here, and you're going to get checked out. We're going to take care of you. They would come into the medical center, take them outside, and see these huge hedges right here so no one can see what's going on. They would line them up right here by this pit and then shoot them all, and they'd fall in the pit. But death camps were usually small. They were very efficient. So in Treblinka, you got off the train, you walked a few hundred feet, bam, you're in the building where you died. That's it. There's not much else to it. Now, this is a list of some of the concentration camps and death camps that the Nazis had. Concentration camps are in green, death camps are in red. All of these death camps are in Poland. None of the death camps were in Germany. They did not want death camps in Germany. They don't want their dirty work in their country. All right, so we are going to stop here, and tomorrow we will continue on with the Holocaust.